Hey, how's it going? My name is Dan Wynn, and I'd like to welcome you to another episode of my Financial Freedom Journal. Before I get into anything, I just want to send a great big thank you to everyone who has liked, commented, shared, and subscribed my YouTube and my Facebook page. I really do appreciate that. I've had several conversations with multiple people that's come on and just had some questions or anything in that, for that matter, just shooting the shit and just kind of talking real estate. I love talking real estate. I really do feed off of this, and I really appreciate all the love, guys. Thank you very much. If anyone is looking to reach out and contact me, I can be found a couple different ways. You can reach out on my Facebook, facebook.com/DWFFJ, Dan Wynn Financial Freedom Journal. Bigger Pockets, I mentioned that on another video. It's a great resource. It's pretty much a Facebook for real estate investors. So if you get on Bigger Pockets, you find yourself on there and you create an account, please look me up, Dan W13, right? And then also YouTube. If you go on YouTube and you just type in Dan Wynn, you should be able to find me. I'm probably the first one on there. So you should be able to find me. Please subscribe, continue to like the videos. And like I said, I really appreciate the love. Thanks. So the buy portion of the BRRRR strategy. The last one of my other videos I talked about, I gave a pretty much a macro of the BRRRR strategy. In this video, I'm going to give a micro of the B in the BRRRR strategy. The B in the BRRRR strategy, basically, that stands for buy. So what we're going to go over, the agenda we're going to go over is 1, the team and the importance of the team. 2, finding the market. 3, finding the deal. 4, analyzing the deal. 5, financing the deal. And lastly, we'll go over how to submit and close on your deal. Getting into the importance of a team. Your team is the most important thing that you can create if you're going about investing, right? Your team is going to allow you to scale. Your team is going to allow you to make investing very passive to where you can just start collecting checks instead of involving yourself in the day-to-day operations. Basically, you want to work on your business, not in your business. Your team, it is their business to work in your business. So with that, there are 3 main members that you want on your team. If you don't have anybody else on your team, you want to have definitely these 3 people that I'm about to cover now, and I'll kind of tell you why. All right. 1 is your realtor. 2 is your property manager. And 3 is your contractor. Now, these 3 people are extremely important to your team. If you don't have anybody else, like I said, you need to have at least these 3 people. Now, another thing I will say is that finding solid team members is going to take time. So don't be frustrated or don't not invest because you don't have a solid team established. It's going to come with time, all right? That's the very first thing. But as you go through these deals, you're going to cycle through multiple realtors, property managers, and contractors until you find solid members, and those are the guys that you're going to continue to go to over and over again. You guys are going to learn how you guys work together, and it's just going to make your business a success. It's all reliant on your team members. All right. So the realtor is pretty obvious. That person's going to write your deals. That person will help find you deals. If they're really good, they'll be able to tell you basically a CMA, comparative market analysis, basically with having your end in mind for whatever your property. If you talk to your realtor and you let her know, hey, what I'm planning to do with this is keep it for 10 years and then I want to sell, she should be able to tell you, hey, well, this is the current rent that's going for around this area. These are typically what homes are selling for right now. It's been increasing. This sub-market has been increasing, 3.6% over the last 5 years. So, you can kind of put those into your numbers when you think about your end game in mind. All right. So realtor is extremely important. Your property manager is going to manage your property. Yes. But, that person is going to deal with the day-to-day operations of your investment. So you don't have to get a call 2 a.m. in the morning saying, hey, my tub is leaking or my toilet's leaking. I need someone to come out and change it. You don't have to deal with that. You don't have to deal with well, a person getting evicted. I'm dealing with an eviction right now, and if you watch one of my last videos, I said, hey, it's a breeze because I have solid property management in place. I don't deal with that, but it takes a lot to deal with it. There's people like a property manager. It's his business to deal with evictions and to deal with sourcing and finding new leads for your rental properties, new tenants for your rental properties. So it's property manager is extremely important for the team. Your contractor, if you're using these BRRRR strategies, or if you're flipping, or even if you're not flipping, if you have tenants in place, typically tenants will over time mess up your units, and you will need people to come in and do work. Some people might call them handyman, instead of contractors, but it's the same thing. You need someone to be able to come in that's knowledgeable, that can fix your house if you need to, fix things that are wrong, fix the roof, or give you an estimate. In this BRRRR strategy, especially, every single time, my guy Dave down in, I have a guy Dave and I have a guy named Stefan Alvarez. Those two are my go-to guys in the two markets that I work in. If I wanted to go in and rehab a house or get something fixed, they come in, they give me great estimates on what needs to be done. I don't live where my investments are, so I trust them to basically take care of the renovations themselves. I pretty much just kind of cut the checks, and it's their business to make sure it's going on time, you're staying on budget. These are very professional people. Now, I will say that the contractor is probably the hardest thing to find out of this group of three right here. The hardest professional person, reliable person to find out of this group here. But once you find them, damn, hold on to them, because they're really, really good people. So these three people will allow you to significantly scale your business and will allow you to make your business more passive. Like I said before, you want to work on your business. You don't want to work in your business. These three people here, it is their business to work on your business, if that makes sense. I know it's kind of confusing, but rewind it back, play it a couple times, you'll get it. These three people also are kind of checks and balances within themselves as well, because every single one of them have a vested interest in you succeeding. So my property manager can go in and check after my contractor. If I didn't trust my contractor, I can ask my realtor or my property manager, hey, can you go check on the property, make sure it's good? Well, they have a vested interest in going to actually check and make sure the property is good, because the realtor, she knows that you're getting, she or he knows that, you're going to be getting deals. You're constantly going after deals. And your property manager, well, he knows, hey, I need to rent this place out, so I need to make sure the work's actually good, right? So they all have vested interest and a vested interest in you succeeding, right? They're all checks and balances with each other. Other members that you want on your team, you got your lender. You have your insurance guy. You have your accountant, big time. And you have your attorney. They also have a vested interest in you succeeding, but not so much as this trifecta here. This is the trifecta you want. I call them the trifecta, man. Like, those are the most important people that you need. But your lender, obviously, he's going to help close your deals. If you go through him pretty often, he knows how you work. He knows your credit already, so he can expedite how long it takes you to close a deal if you're consistently working with them. The insurance guy, your insurance guy will be able to basically make sure you're properly covered for your property. If you have multiple units, like I have a couple multiple units, and the coverage that I have to make sure, if somebody comes and sues me, I have to have like a certain amount of liability, a certain amount of just overall cost for the construction. If something was to happen, a meteor was to fall on my home, I have to make sure that I'm covered as far as what it would take to rebuild a whole entire new 4-unit on, my piece of land that I have. The accountant's big because that person's going to save you money at the end of the year when he's going to reduce your tax liability. And if you have a good accountant, they'll help you structure what you're doing throughout the year. They're not just going to file your taxes at the end of the year and hope that you save money, but you can approach them throughout the year and say, hey, I'm about to buy this unit. What do you think about this? They'll tell you, hey, well, from a tax standpoint, you might want to do this, you might want to do this, you might want to do this. So they're key in your team as well. And then finally, your attorney. I had to sue a contractor. Remember, I said contractors are probably the hardest people you're going to deal with. I had to sue a contractor on my last project. It was a headache. It turned a 3-month project into an 8-month project. So I was dealing with all these legal issues, and without the help of an attorney, it would have really sucked. And I had an attorney on the front end to help make sure my paperwork was right when I sent out when I signed contractors with my contractors. And because I had my paperwork all together, it made it a lot easier. The whole lawsuit just went pretty smoothly. So this is your team. And like I said, the importance of a team. If you don't have your team together, or if you don't develop a team as you go through, you're not going to last very long. I'll just put it that way. Your team's going to help you scale. Your team's going to help you succeed, and your team's going to allow everything to be more passive. So next thing we'll talk about is finding the market. So a few things to consider when you're looking for your market, when you're doing your market research, like, hey, where do I invest? What city do I want to invest? What area do I want to invest? Things like that. A few things to consider are, 1, population. 2, job growth, or just jobs in general. Let's put jobs, because that includes unemployment, job growth, things like that. And then lastly, any special circumstances. All right, so population. Me personally, I don't like to invest anywhere with a population of under 200,000. So what that means is that if they have at least 200,000 people, then there's plenty of places to rent. There's a solid population, basically to rent to. If you go to these little small podunk towns, it's going to be hard to find good tenants. Your pool is much smaller. It also means there's less people that live there. They probably have smaller incomes, things like that. So I make sure my populations, I just put plus 200K. I try to make sure the population wherever I'm going to invest is over 200,000. All right, as far as jobs include job growth, and then also unemployment. That is all considered under jobs. So the importance of job growth is I want to make sure that more people are coming to the city. So the more jobs that are available, the higher the median income, the more people are coming to the city. As far as unemployment, there's a lot of unemployment, then there's a lot of people that's not going to be able to afford to move into my apartment, or if they have growing unemployment or declining job growth, then that means the people that are living in my tenants are more than likely I'm going to have to go through an eviction again. And I don't want to do that. So these are the last thing you want to look into is special circumstances. And when I talk about special circumstances, I mainly mean the geography of the area. So like where it's located at within a market or a sub-market. Hey, is this place next to a college? All right. So if it's next to a college, you have colleges, especially big universities, they're not going anywhere anytime soon. Now you have to tailor the way that you invest to meet that market, that specific market. So if I know that I'm in a college city and I'm right outside, what are college kids looking for? I might be able to, instead of leasing the whole entire house, I might just sign leases per room. So and are you next to a military base? A couple of my properties are next to military bases. So knowing that, I know what the BAH is in the area. I know what soldiers, basically who to market to. Am I marketing to officers with families, soldiers, or senior enlisted with families, or am I advertising to brand new E5 who just had to move out of the barracks? That's kind of some of the things that you kind of want to think about when you talk about these special circumstances. So finding your market, definitely, if you don't look at anything, you at least want to look into these three things: population, jobs, special circumstances. Well, we're going to go ahead and move into finding the deal. And finding the deals, you got a couple different ways to find your deal, right? So we'll talk about individual search, and we'll talk about your realtor, key member of your team, remember? And then we'll also talk about wholesaling. On that. The second and third deal that I found was an individual search. All right, and the way I did that, you got a number of different ways to do it. They have a bunch of different, platforms you can go to, like Zillow, Realtor. You can go to LoopNet. You can kind of do. If you're looking in your neighborhood, you can just kind of go around and drive around. It's called bird dogging, where you just drive around and you look and see if somebody's grass is uncut, or the houses that have been vacant. They're usually visibly noticeable. The houses have been vacant for a long time, or that are going into foreclosure. Go look at those lists, and you can contact sellers that way. So those are a few different ways that you can go out and actually find your deal if you want to do it individually. And then when you go to, I'll get more into analyzing it if you do an individual search when I get to this portion here. But just initially finding the deals, like I said, you can search individually. It's too easy. It's information age right now. You can use any kind of technology and kind of do searches that way. So the realtor, we already talked about why the realtor is so important. This person will find you deals. This person will help find you deals. You give them, hey, this is what I'm looking for. More than likely, they'll set you up a search in the MLS, in that local MLS, and they'll have emails sent to you when something within your criteria pops up, or something that's already up within your criteria, and you'll have emails sent to you. It's pretty easy, and if you really get to know them and you really get to explain, hey, this is exactly what I'm looking for, they should be able to accommodate and find exactly what you're looking for, and basically present you those deals. So realtor is a huge asset. You also, along with the realtor, I should have put just the trifecta here. I'm going to change that. Everyone in the trifecta can find you deals. All right, the trifecta right here. Remember I talked about the realtor, property manager, contractor. Everybody there can find you deals. Typically, your go-to is going to be the realtor. If you start talking to a contractor, usually contractors know, because especially rentals, because they work on a lot of rehabs. And if somebody didn't complete the rehab, they'll be able to tell you, hey, this guy didn't complete the job, or he's not completing the job. He ran out of money. He's looking for somebody to pick it up. That's an easy way. I've had several contractors come up to me like that. Same thing with property management. They can do the same thing. They can tell you, hey, this guy's trying to sell his house. Typically, most property managers have a realtor. In most states, it's they have to have a realtor's license, so they'll be able to tell you anyways. They have access to the MLS and things like that. So that's finding the deals, the trifecta. Lastly, is the wholesalers. You guys have probably seen those bandit signs on different corners where they have, will sell home or will buy homes cash, things like that. Those are wholesaler signs. And what they're doing is they're hoping that you'll call the number and say, hey, I have my dad just passed and he left me this house and I have no use for it. It's worth $100,000, but I'm just trying to get rid of it. The wholesaler will be like, oh, great. He'll go out there, he'll check your house, and he'll say, all right, I can give you $65,000 cash for the house, in 2 weeks, right? The person on the other line is like, yeah, great, $65,000, I'll take that. So the wholesaler goes over, he checks out the house, he has the person sign a lease, subject to clause. You guys can do more research on it, just Google wholesaler. But he makes him sign his contract, and he says, I will sell you the house for $65,000. Now, in that 2 weeks, that the wholesaler said, hey, I'll give you the cash in 2 weeks, what that wholesaler does is he gets on his buyer's list, people that have a bunch of cash that are ready to buy deals immediately. He'll get on his buyer's list. He'll send out an email blast on his buyer's list and say, hey, I got this house, and I'll sell it to you guys for $75,000. Now remember, he bought it from Zach over there for $65,000. He's saying he's going to sell it to his buyer, Ben, for $75,000. There's a $10,000 difference in there. So Ben's like, yeah, I'll buy it from you, from the wholesaler. Say that is that $10,000 difference there. The wholesale walks away with the $10,000. Ben, the buyer, gets his house that he paid $75,000 for. Zach sells his house for $65,000, and the wholesale walks away with $10,000. The reason why Ben would do this is because it's hard to find deals. The wholesaler's job is, all he does is goes out and looks for deals. And because he's going out and looking for those deals, he expects a cut of connecting the buyer and the seller together. So that's wholesaling. All right, so let's get into analyzing the deals. So just one quick note on analyzing and submitting offers. It's all a numbers game. So when I get to this section here, typically when I analyze properties, I will, in order to get one deal, one or two deals, or one or two offers accepted, I will analyze 100 to 200 properties for each one of them. I'll write offers on maybe 25, and then only one or two of those 25 will get accepted. Now, a lot of it has to do is because, I usually write extremely low offers and kind of see what sticks. A lot of people say if, your offer doesn't embarrass you, then you're probably not writing it low enough. And I've kind of used that method on a few of the properties that I've closed on. So if you're wanting a really good deal, you're going to have to analyze a lot of properties, and you're going to have to write a lot of offers. And I'll get into how I'm writing offers once I get here. Give you a couple of tricks and tips that's worked for me at least. So going into analyzing the deals, a few of the things that you're going to need to gather. One of them is the ARV, or after repair value. Another one is some information off the county website. I'll just put county web. You're also going to want the estimated rent if you're using the BRRRR strategy. And then I'll hit this last one. I'm just going to say basically the BP calculator. This is kind of where it's all going to come together. All right, so the ARV, the reason why that is important, the after repair value, because when using this BRRRR strategy, if you can get an accurate ARV, then you can tell how much your home is going to be worth after you get done fixing it. And why is that important? It's important when you get to the refinance section of the BRRRR strategy. And again, I'll kind of go over that. When I get to it, but just know it's extremely important when you get to it, when you start talking about loan to value and things like that. But just know that's extremely important. Just look out for the rehab portion, and it'll all connect together, and you'll really, really understand it. All right, the county website. A few things you're going to look for on the county website. Every single home you can find the plot of land, you can find who owns it and things like that from the county website. So whatever county you're in. So I got a property in Duval County. Duval. Anybody in Jacksonville? Got a single family in Duval County. And when I went to analyze these deals, a bunch of different deals, I was all over the Duval County website, find out who owns it, and things like that. So a few of the major things that you want from this county website is the history of the property, his zoning, that's key. All right, so when I say the history, you can see who owns it. You can see, if it's been traded a bunch of different times, or if it's been purchased a bunch of different times. That might mean something. You can kind of find out about a property based off of the history, how many times it's been sold, what it's been sold for, who owned it, who is currently owning it, and what did they buy it for. It can kind of help you write your offers and things like that. Or the zoning is extremely important. So when you start talking multifamilies and even commercial units, if some people build stuff that's illegal, so you might be presented a 7-unit apartment, right? But it's only zoned residential when it's on a county website. Well, that's a problem, because if the county ever comes out and looks at your property and says, hey, you got 7 units here, but it's only zone residential. Now you're going to have to go through the paperwork of trying to get it, of either one, tearing it all down, or two, going through the paperwork, paying fees and stuff like that to get it switched to the proper zoning. And the last thing, and another important thing on here, is from the county website, you can find out what your tax liability is going to be. So you can see year over year what the true taxes have been, the property taxes have been on that piece of property, and you factor that number into your you factor it into your numbers when you go to do your to basically find out how much you're going to cash flow. Because if you're paying $1,000 or you're paying $1,200 a year in taxes, that just means you're paying $100 a month. If you're paying $5,000 a year, that's going to be well over $100 a month, closer to $400 a month, and that significantly decreases, or it can significantly change your cash flow, basically. So, went over the ARV, went over the county website and what you want from there. The estimated rent, if you're using the BRRRR strategy, the reason why the estimated rent is important is because you need to know how much homes are renting for in your area. You can do an easy search. You can go to your realtor, and she can probably tell you. You can go to a bunch of different internet sources like HotPads, Zillow, Realtor. Look at the for rent. Do a little map for rent in your area, the area of the home, and you can kind of see what similar homes are renting for in that area. You can also see how many rentals are on the market. If there's no rentals on the market and you're in a large populated area, that's probably great for you. You probably want to definitely invest there, because there's a lack of 3-bedroom, 2 bathrooms for rent, which means it can increase your rent, the amount of rent that you charge. And it kind of gives you a baseline of when you do your numbers, basically. All right, so I say these 3 right here, all 3 of these feeds, you're going to need all 3 of these for the Bigger Pockets calculator. Now, every time I run my numbers, I go on Bigger Pockets, biggerpockets.com/calculator, and they have a great resource there where you can enter all these numbers in, and it generates you a spreadsheet. I've taken it to bank when I've analyzed deals. When I get to this financing portion, I've taken spreadsheets generated from this BP calculator to multiple banks. And when I sit down with them and I give them, my spreadsheets, hey, this is what I'm calculating. This is the current rent. This is what my monthly cash flow is going to look like. This is what my yearly cash flow is going to look like. This is what it's going to look like at year 5, year 10, year 20, year 30. These are some of the things that this report generates for you. So, and it makes you look extremely, extremely, extremely professional. I've been to several banks, and pretty much every time I've been, they've been like wowed to the point where they're like, can I make a copy of what you have so I can show this to someone? Like, it's that big of a deal. I mean, you can even put your logo on it. Like, I put my logo on it. It looks really, really professional. Financing the deal. All right, so you got a few different options when it comes to financing the deal. You got traditional financing. You have hard money. You also have private money. All right. Traditional financing is pretty self-explanatory. I kind of covered a little bit of it in my first video, giving the overall scheme of the BRRRR strategy. And basically, you're leveraging about 20 to 30% of what an asset would cost. So basically, you put on a $100,000 home, you put about 20 to 30% down to buy that house, and then you would also finance the rehab. So some lenders you can go to traditional financing through big box banks and even smaller credit unions. That's typically where you want to go to, smaller credit unions. They usually have better rates, and they will typically work with you more. But typically what I've seen with smaller banks or just any traditional financing in general is that you have to put 20 to 30% down, and they won't finance the rehab. And that's pretty much it. All right. So you got hard money. Hard money is great. I've used hard money once. I've used traditional financing once, and I've used traditional financing like twice, 2 or 3 times, and then I've used hard money once. And hard money was great. The last 4 unit I put 25% down on the purchase, and then they did 100% of the rehab. So it was really, really easy for me. I was able to complete this BRRRR strategy with very, very little out of pocket, and I made most of that money back. I'll do a video at some point going over the numbers of that deal. But essentially, you got different hard money lenders. If you just type in hard money, you'll find a bunch of them. I've used Realty Shares and I've used Lima One. So that's a couple different hard money lenders you can go to right there. But don't just use those two because I've used them. Actually go through and kind of get the numbers on a bunch of different ones because they change periodically. They offer different loan to values, and I'll kind of explain that when I get to the to the refinance portion. But hard money's great. They'll usually pay for a large portion of your rehab and a large portion of the original purchase price of the home. So you also got private money. Private money is typically where a lot of people are trying to get to, myself included. So I have a few people that will go in on deals with me. Will be basically private lenders to me. So it's a few gentlemen that have a lot of money that they have money that's just sitting around not doing anything at all. You put it in a bank, you can only collect 2% on it. In a savings account, you put it in a CD, you're only going to collect a few percent. Put it in a stock market, you may collect 8%, or you can invest with me and I can get you 15 to 20% plus your original investment back in 5 to 6 months if I'm doing a flip. So that's the allure of private money, at least for people that have money and they want to get their money into real estate and they want a good return on their investment. Typically, they'll find investors that are out there doing it, and they will partner with them. Basically, me and a person that has more money, I'll do the work, and that person will fund the project, and then we basically split it 50-50 after he gets all his money back. And it's an easy way. It's an easy sell. So those are the 3 ways that you can finance a deal. There's also creative financing. I didn't put that in there because there's so many. It's hard for me to explain that. There's so many different ways that you can get creative and finance a deal. But I'm not going to really cover that too much. You can kind of look that up on your own if you'd like to, or you can write me and I can go more into detail. All right, so finally we have made it to the end. Submitting your deal and then closing. I'm not really going to talk about closing because your realtor or whoever is actually your lender and your closing attorney will pretty much guide you through that process. I don't need to really go over that. It's really, really simple, but I will pretty much kind of touch on how to submit an offer, right? I've done it a few different ways. Most people will submit their offer through their realtor. And then some people will submit their offer directly to the actual listing agent. All right. So there's pros and cons of both, but if you're doing it the right way, there's really not many cons to either way. So you have a buyer's agent. Let's say you want to buy a property, and you go out and you seek a realtor. You call up a Keller Williams or some other firm for. I got a buddy who's a realtor. His name is Malcolm, so I'm just going to use him for example. His name is Malcolm Miles. He's out in Clarksville, Tennessee. Great guy, and he can help you sell a home. If you want to get in contact with him, send me an email. I'll shoot you his information. But so let's say I want to go and find a house. I will go up to Malcolm and say, hey, will you represent me? This is what I'm looking for, blah, blah, blah. Malcolm is my buyer's agent, all right? And when he finds the house that I want to buy, Malcolm will go and talk to the seller's agent, right? So you got a seller's agent who is the listing agent. She's the one who's basically is representing the seller, the person selling the property. So she's the listing agent, and then Malcolm's the buying agent. All right. So most people will submit offers through their realtor. And when I say realtor, they'll submit through their buying agent. All right. Then you also, and this is pretty self-explanatory, get you a realtor, get you a Malcolm, and then he'll submit the offer for you, and it's too easy. Another way you can do it, and a couple ways that I've done it in the past, I've done this twice, 2 or 3 times, and actually close with it, is sending it directly to the listing agent. So this usually happens when I do an individual search when I'm finding a deal. So when I go out and I do my individual search and I'm trying to find a deal, I go through all these, I analyze the deal, I find the deal, I analyze the deal, and I see if you go to Zillow or LoopNet or whatever you go to look through your deals, at the bottom of the ad, it's going to say who is the listing agent, who is responsible for, for talking to the true seller of the property, the owner of the property. I reach out directly to that person, and I do it in a specific way. So, one, I have my proof of funds through my lender, and you can get a proof of funds through your lender, pretty easily. Just contact any bank or whoever your specific lender is, and let them know what you're trying to do. I'm trying to buy a house. They'll run a quick credit check, and they'll say, "Hey, you're approved for $500,000," and they'll give you a little notice, which is a proof of fund letter, and it says, "Hey, this person, Dan Wynn, is eligible for $500,000 to buy in a home in whatever market." It'll say something along those lines. But when I submit directly to a listing agent, I send them an email, "Hey, how's your day going? Blah, blah, blah. I'm somewhat interested. I'm an investor in the area, and I'm interested in your property." I'll send them the proof of funds, and that lets them know that, all right, this guy's serious. He already has the money. He's not just a random dude who just wants to waste my time, right? I'll send them the proof of funds, and then I'll also send them a letter of intent. And if you guys want to know what the letter of intent is, like specifics of it, I'll give you a sample, my actual letter of intent that I use. I'll email it to you. Just hit me up on here, write me or something like that, and I'll shoot you my letter of intent. But what the letter of intent does is it outlines your offer, your terms, and also any other thing about the property that you want. So in my actual letter of intent, I will say, "Hey, it's a very structured document," and you put like the listing price, $100,000. We'll close in, we'll close in 21 days. Need a 10-day due diligence period. I need basically the things that you need from the property. I need a rent roll. I need the covenants and restrictions of maybe you're going into a neighborhood or something like that, the HOA restrictions. It'll outline all these things in a document. So realtors don't typically get that, especially from a person that's reaching directly out to them. So I'll send them my letter of intent, and I'll also send them my proof of funds. Those 2 documents helps legitimize me as a true buyer. So typically I'll get a response very, very quick, and I'll get a very, very receptive response too. They're like, "Oh, hey, we want to come and you want to come and check out the property, da 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 da," because they see you as, "Hey, this guy can really buy, and he's really serious, and he's done this before." So typically I get a very positive response when I send my letter of intent and my proof of funds. I've had a few realtors like, "Wow, that was, I've never seen that before. That was great. That made it really, really easy for me." So done that a few times. My last 4 units, that's the way I bought it. I did an individual search, and I submitted it to my realtor. She's now a realtor that I use. She actually closed on my last 4 unit too, but I sent it directly to her as a listing agent. Now the pros for the listing agent also is that so typically when a realtor sells a home, there's a 6% commissioning fee. 3% typically goes to the buyers, and then 3% goes to the seller, right? So if the listing agent represents both the buyer and the seller, that person gets 6% versus 3%. So it kind of incentivizes them to really want to work with you anyways. That's actually a huge plus for submitting directly to the listing agent. Now, I'm not saying be a shady person. Don't go around, and have a realtor, be working with a realtor, but then send to a bunch of different listing agents too. It's not the way to go. Don't be shady in this business, because it gets around. People do talk, and you're probably not going to be in the game that long if you continue to be shady. So closing, if you guys have any questions, please reach out to me. Please write me on Facebook /DWFFJ or Bigger Pockets Dan W13, or just Google me on or YouTube. Search me on, just type in Dan Wynn, you'll find me. Again, if you like this video, I know it was a very long video, but hopefully you got a lot out of it. My goal is to really put out content. I really want to give you the tools you need to go out and transact your own deals. If I'm not doing that, or if you need a little bit more information on something that I cover, please just reach out to me. I will respond back. Again, like, comment, share, subscribe. If you like what I'm doing here and you like these videos and I'm giving you content, that's pretty much it. Dan Wynn signing out. Thanks.